Okay, folks, welcome back. We'll start the class. Let me just set up some links here in case people need it for Okay, so a couple of things here. I'm going to, first of all, switch to my laptop. Let's see if we can see something. Okay, so we see something. Welcome back. Today is Wednesday, February 14, Valentine's Day. So I wish you all a happy Valentine's Day. And I'm going to pass around a little Valentine for each of you. So you can take a little, go and take a little heart for you, okay? You can take it for yourself or for someone else. You can pick in and take one. So let me start. I'm going to start my broadcast. And as I mentioned before, I'm going to start my broadcast, and all my broadcasts will be in the site called Steemit. Did I talk about this last time? Yeah, the steemit.com, right? And that's going to be at what? The Psycho. And this is blockchain. We'll work on that as well. So let me start that. We're broadcasting. I'm going to minimize here. I'll take this URL. Let me go back and get that URL. Wow, thank you. We'll keep this for others. So I'm going to go to this steemit.com. I'll go, always you'll find my latest is on top. So I'm going to go to my latest here, which is 214. And right here, let me just go back. I want to edit. And in my edit, I'll just put the link right here. And then I will update the post. Okay. So you can see the updated post available. I'll also go to courses.miami.edu. And get a name tag. If you don't have your name tag, make yourself a name tag as you go in. Help everyone. I'm going to log in to Blackboard. Right. I'll start with KY audit. And my course documents. And I have my groups here of Peter, Vincent, and Dan, right? And which among you gave the code from your phone? Vincent was. And Dan and Cleveland, did you also give your code? No, from your phone. Okay. All right. So I'll do that next time. Okay, so what's up with you guys? What have you done? What's the situation, Vincent?
I made a spreadsheet with just comparing two stocks' I guess profit per month. Side by side, and I made an Excel sheet for that. It's down at the bottom.
Okay. All right. And then, my next group then is,
I'm the only one here.
okay, so what's up?
Well, I wasn't here last week. They were both here last week, so we kind of flip-flopped, I guess.
And
We
so-
haven't started with the Ninja Trader yet, we still haven't gotten around to that.
Okay, that's not good. So what I wanna do is, at the very end of the class, stay with me, and we'll get you even started with another group.
Perfect.
Okay, see what other groups have done.
Wait,
Maybe.
they're still in the class, they're just not here today.
Okay, but I'm just
Yeah,
telling
I'll
you,
talk about
okay, so group 3, what do I have? Luca, Zach, and Maddie, what's up? So what have you done?
Me and him have done our collaboration. We have that other team member who hasn't, the one who joined last time, who's not here.
We haven't heard from her at all.
And then there's the other one who you added to us, who also isn't here. So I guess it's still just us
Okay,
two.
2. Okay, so maybe at the end, can you stay, maybe get him up and running, okay? So maybe every time you're like the lone one, you take everybody in, and then either me or you scare them all, okay? So, all right, so we're okay with
But yeah, I
that.
did the Ninja Trader moving average.
Okay, perfect. Okay, and then group 4, Tommy and Nico, I guess Isabella's not here either?
Yeah, she's not here.
Okay,
We put them all the Excels on one doc, and then we did the total performance.
okay, you have any problems, any issues?
No.
Oh. Okay, so we'll do some other things. Okay, I just want to see. And then group 5, do I have anybody from group 5 here? So group 5 has left me. Group 6, Phil, and Uday, and Gabrielle, and Felipe, what's up?
We have the spreadsheets combined into one
Mm-hmm,
with 2 separate sheets.
mm-hmm. Okay, and you have any issues? How are we doing, okay? And then, group 7, do I have anybody from group 7? John and Mackenzie, so what's going on? So you're at the, so what do we need to do? So you missed last time?
We're working on like our Ninja Trader stuff.
Okay, so,
Combining it into one before, like that's what we're doing.
okay, so we'll end a little bit earlier, so your group, if anyone, is anyone else in your group yet? If not, so stay with me and we'll work it out, okay? And that's it. Okay, so we got there, so we'll work a little bit more. I'll talk about today what we call strategies versus indicators. And I'll also talk about blockchain, software, and security. And we'll talk about malware. Okay? How's that sound? So what's your name, Abdullah?
Yeah.
Okay, do you make yourself a name tag, Abdullah? And then take a marker. Where's the marker around? Is there a marker? Somebody took one of the markers. So take this marker, pass that to him. And then you're in, you're with, okay, so, okay. All right, so let's go back to Blackboard, and I'm gonna go to a regular section. Everybody with me? Let's go to our regular section. In our regular section, I want to do assignments. Everybody got my note about the assignments, about the quizzes? Yes, no? Did you understand that TG2 was the same thing as TG1? But anyways, it's TG2A, right? Am I in the right section? KY, we're KY, right? So you should have TG2A. And for next week, I'm going to make Chapter 5, the data available. So what do I need to, I need to edit my test options. What else do I need to do? I have to make the link available, And should I make it 1 attempt or 2? 2, okay, so I'll make the link available, and I'll keep it at 2 attempts, and I'll submit. And what do you have to tell me? Is it available on your end? Yes, Cleveland.
Wait, can I ask you a question?
Sure.
The quiz TG1 is the same one as the TG2A? Is that what you said?
No, I said TG1 is the same as TG2,
Oh, alright, never mind.
okay?
Yeah.
I really should just delete TG2, right? Let me look. TG2 is what? Which of the following is false? When to purchase, yeah. So let me go back and let me just, to make it easy, let me just, I'm going to, for TG2, I'm just not gonna make it available. So edit the test options, and I will not make the link available, so that way it won't be confusing. How's that? So that's easier, right? So we don't get so confused. So do you have yours? Is that correct? So the TG2, let me just move it up here. After the quiz chapter 4, it goes to TG2 and then chapter 5. Okay. The exam. I want us to all do well. Everybody agree? Why not? So I want to delay our exam. So if I look at it, I want to do the first week in March, which is what date? Let's see. It's March 7th. Okay? The nice thing is we don't have to have an exam after spring break, right? You can go in spring break free. We can also have the week before. I'll spend time reviewing. So there won't be any surprises on what's on the exam. The exam will be 2 parts. Part of it will be multiple choice. The other part will be open-ended questions. Open-ended questions like the Ninja Trader, the automated trading systems we've done. We'll go over some blockchain. Some of the things about blockchain will be open-ended questions. Okay, so put in your notes there, then March 7th, right? Then if I look at March 7th then here, will be the exam. Exam 1. And it'll cover the chapters of the quizzes that we've done so far. Zach, is this 1771? Is this the 9?
Yep.
This is IT troubleshooting that Zach put up to help you with. And did they help you, or did you ever call it?
They helped me navigate to like where the lab had Ninja Trader.
Okay, so the lab now has Ninja Trader in there. Give me feedback on if and you need a document, right? And also call this number if it's not working on the lab. Just to give you an example of how you need to supervise, Jesse was working right. They installed Ninja Trader, but no one ever bothered to check, does it work? So they installed it, and no one had the sense to say, well, can you open it? Can you run it? They just said, hey, we installed it. So they give me feedback that it's up and running on all computers, and it was an error then. Okay, so we got that part. We know the exams. We have that, and I have my groups then that will be at the end with my groups. Okay. Let me go back to, you have web links here in your regular one. Okay, and you should have read the next to the last 3 articles, one on the stolen lemons, the difference between Bitcoin and blockchain for business, and what is blockchain the most disruptive tech in decades. And when I think about blockchain and what it is, and we can kind of combine it with blockchain. If I think about it, are we talking about software or hardware? Everybody understand the question? What was my question? Dan?
Blockchain, hardware, software.
Yeah. So we got the right question. So what do you think?
Software.
Okay.
Hardware.
Huh?
I think it's the hardware.
Okay, so we got software and hardware. So if those were one of the choices, maybe somebody got it right. And then there would another be both, and then there would be another one, right? D, none of the above. Okay. So what do you think? So Jesse, what do you think? Is blockchain hardware or software? A, hardware, B, software, C, A and B, and D, none of the above. Blockchain. What do you think?
Software.
Software. Okay, basically, blockchain, the technology of blockchain is part software, but now they are embedding it into chips. There'll be chip design, because what's the problem with blockchain is what? What about speed? Is it fast, slow? How many transactions can I get per second? What should you do now, Tom?
Yeah. Millions of transactions per second? Is that right or no?
Millions?
How many transactions can I do? What's the key characteristics of blockchain? First of all, it says blockchain is supposed to change basically the way, but what is the thing? They're saying here, seemingly, that it's what? What, Mackenzie?
New secure electronic ledger, but it has 7.
It has what?
Has 7 transactions a second.
7 transactions a second. And how many do Visa take, you think?
Like 2,000.
Thousands. Right? So, what?
Thousands a second.
Thousands a second, something like Visa. So one of the problems now is this is in its infancy. Blockchain technology is in infancy, so a lot of times the speed is the problem in the transaction. So one of the things that they're going to be doing is helping in terms of software, but what else is going to help the speed? What should help the speed then? Is hardware, right? When you think about last time's hardware, right? Multi-processors, I'll be talking about the different graphic processing, the number of processors will be quicker. So the idea on blockchain is its advantages is it has security. And what about the general ledger? Its electronic ledger then is what? Is it centralized or is it distributed? Mark, blockchain is the ledger centralized or distributed?
Distributed.
Distributed, and how many ledgers do I have of that general ledger? 1? 2? More than 2? What do you think? Let's think about a bank. Everybody have a bank account? Everybody have a debit credit account, right? When you charge something, right? What happens? Nico, what happens? If you then charge something, who has that ledger?
So what do you mean charge something?
Let's say I buy something. You go, right, or you buy something online, right, or you go to the grocery store, you buy things, and instead of cash, you use a debit card or you use a credit card, right? And what happens, Nico?
So you pay with a credit card and then probably I don't know how you call those things, chip machine.
Right.
Sends a signal to a satellite who sends it back to the bank, or I don't know how it works.
To the bank, you have, your credit card is associated with what? It's not associated just with you, but you have to have every credit card is associated with a bank, and if you put money in the bank, it has a general ledger, tells you how much you put in, how much you withdraw, and who has that ledger? Who holds that ledger? Is whom? The bank holds that ledger. So the idea of, there's that one single ledger, that bank has that ledger. What's on the other end, in blockchain, is that that ledger is going to be distributed from both sides of the transaction. So many times the bank doesn't need to be in the middle here, but if I have a mirror myself, then it will be distributed, that ledger, and we'll have, especially what it is, if I don't have that trust, we'll decide on that one truth of that ledger. So what it happens to be here, they're trying to do what they call distributed ledger technology that will supposedly, and I say supposedly, save time and reduce costs. So one of the things here on these real world projects is, since this is in the very beginning, blockchain then is starting, and these are the questions that you need to answer. What does blockchain do? How secure is blockchain? In many ways, when I have that block, which is our transactions, they are encrypted. They're encrypted in very large or long keys. So it becomes quite secure, that blockchain transactions. So this is what a lot of people have. Traditionally, what started blockchain technology? What made all the hoopla on all the hype? Bitcoin, right? Bitcoin, everybody hear about Bitcoin? Bitcoin made all the hype there. That uses the blockchain technology, but it is not the only one. And in the very beginning, blockchain and Bitcoin, and there were other coins there that were what we call public. And basics like both sides then of the transaction could be what they called anonymous. So who really got involved with it? Drug dealers, people that bought guns, terrorists, all kind of the criminal element really liked that, because they said, hey, the governments can't follow me because I don't have a way. And they have something in a number of, for instance, banking systems, which they say has something called KYC. What's KYC? Know your customer. So in a bank, you open up a bank account, Tommy, the bank has to know who you are and where your funds are coming from. So you just can't be anyone just opening a bank and then you say, hey, I've got $30 million, $50 million, $100 million, and they have to do some due diligence and find out, where did you get that money? That they can't say that we're having it for spurious purposes. So this is know your customer, and there's something else called AML. Put this in your notes. And AML is anti-money laundering. What's money laundering? Anybody have a clue? Yes.
It's when you like secretly bring in money that's from like an illegal activity.
And doing what?
Illegal, and then like getting taxed on it. So
And what else? It's basically, money laundering is that I've gotten, let's say we were in Colombia and a group there were selling drugs, right? And if they went to the bank and said, hey, here's all my money from the drug lords, right? You think they would open up that account for you? No. And then I said, oh, wow, this is Dr. Rush. She has all this money from her cocaine enterprises. So what they want to do is what? They want to launder it, or basically wash that source coming from the drug money, and many times putting it in legitimate legitimate resources. Many times also it may be, there have been, shell companies buying real estate. Have you ever seen there's a lot of, have you gone downtown and seen all those high rises and so forth? South Florida, we are the capital probably of money laundering, right? From a lot of those areas that money coming in, and they basically think about laundering, washing that out, trying to remove the source of that into others. Yes, Phil?
My mom works at a.
I hoped you weren't gonna say my mom is a money launderer, right? I know, right?
She works at a gift card company, and they sell gift cards online, and they accept Bitcoin as payment.
Mhm.
She always talks about the anti-laundering laws. Like, she can't accept, I think, more than $10,000 in a day or something like that.
Right, because that's what a lot of times is now how am I gonna, they're now people on the internet, their job also is, what can you buy? She accepts Bitcoin, and a lot of times what they want to do is even sometimes convert it to other currencies, right? And there's people out there that will take those Bitcoins
And just buy Amazon gift cards or whatever.
right, and charge it to try to remove themselves from that actual way. And she gets a lot of business then. Has she increased her business?
Well, it's not her business. She's she's the CPA for them.
Okay.
But, yeah, it's like a startup company.
Okay, so it's interesting of the CPA, it's interesting, there's gonna be a different way of auditing now, thinking about Bitcoin. So wonderful. So when you think about public versus private, something like Bitcoin then, Phil, is what? Public versus private?
Public.
Public. Basically, what does it mean, public?
Everyone can see the transaction.
Not only everyone can see the transaction, but what else?
It's accessible to everyone.
It's accessible to everyone, so everyone can go up on it. But what's the problem if accessible to everyone? Then the problem is, do I know my customer? So even at that case on that Bitcoin is that not everyone can know their customer in detail, so that's why they're starting private blockchains. And the private blockchains is trusted in the way that I'm only going to accept certain people into that blockchain. So it's, again, like the bank, or again, like the offices. And you can see here that blockchain, when does it really fit the blockchain, is when I have many transactions. When I have a number of transactions that I have along that blockchain, and what I'm thinking about, each blockchain then is going to be secured, and there's going to be a link in front and below. And you'll have then areas of fintech. You can see that in areas of fintech that they're processing. And now, for instance, Accenture. Have you heard of Accenture, Phil? Anybody heard of Accenture? Accenture is basically one of the largest consulting firms in the world, and they're claiming then blockchain could reduce infrastructure costs for 8 of the world's 10 largest investment banks by 30%, translating to $8 billion. So cross-border payments is really fitting. What does it mean, cross-border payments? I'm in the United States, I want to have cross-border payments, let's say to Mexico. What's the problem? What are the transactions?
You have to pay money.
Not only do I have to pay money, but what else? I have pesos and I have dollars. What do I have then? I have exchange rates. What else do I have? I have mediators in between. So what they're trying, even in Western Union, these types of things, remittances are going to be the first in terms of multi-layers of communication among payment participants to verify transactions known as payment and settlement. We have to wait a number of days. That's going to be reduced. If you look here, is ways in which JP Morgan is now trying to arguably be one of the largest blockchain payments that are available. So you'll be able to see a number of industries here. Let me just show you this. So this is what we call the blockchain then here. Here is basically a hash then is a code. So a hash is a cryptic code here that this is a block of transactions going to this transaction, going to this transaction, and my ledger then gets distributed across. The bottleneck is the length of time. That's gonna be the bottleneck of what I have. So you can see here, the idea is peer-to-peer network. Generally, we have talked about it as centralized. When I talk about cloud computing, everybody hear about cloud computing, right? Cloud computing means what? Cloud computing means that there's going to be a computer, and it's not in the cloud. What is it? It's going to be a computer that is located somewhere else in the world that's accessible via what? Via the internet, via browser. And that centralized computer then will then host many. It's like a one-to-many operation. In peer-to-peer, it's a one-to-one. So many times, the peer-to-peer was even in the very beginning when they started doing songs and kind of bypassing songs. They used to use something called Napster, was the same idea. So this peer-to-peer is combined with distributed time stamping server and my blockchain database that can be managed. Now, we talked about mining, you remember? Mining those computers. And what I'd like you to see go to this site. It's called cyberscoop.com. Cyber, C-Y-B-E-R. You remember we talked about security? This site when you go to this site, you'll never want to open up your computer again because it'll scare the whatever out of you. But this is called Cyber Scoop, and it deals with government, transportation, healthcare, technology, financial. And you can see here, this is interesting. You see this technology? It says why Salon is turning to crypto mining. And basically, this is an online publication that's losing money. And how do online publications make money? What? Ads. And do people like ads, usually? No, so basically they said their idea is they're losing money and people don't like ads. So what's their solution to get money? This is their idea, whether it work or not is something else. Their idea is if you want to view their site, what do you think you have to do in return?
Put your computer to mine.
Yeah. Now, what's interesting here, Tuesday was interesting day of history. In an effort to make money in the face of ad blockers, progressive news outlets began to opt in cryptocurrency miners on the readers' computers. Using CoinHub, a piece of software that's been described, right, commonly used in attacks, okay, is now mining Monero. And Monero, M-O-N-E-R-O, is another coin. But what's interesting here is they're going to take over your computer, you're going to opt in, right, and you're going to use your computer. And then supposedly they're going to make money out of it. I don't know who would agree to that. But what's interesting here, let's go back. They're opting in. You know, here's the release. But look at this. Anybody hear of Telegram before? Telegram is a messaging system, kind of like similar to WhatsApp. Everybody knows kind of WhatsApp, right? It's similar to that, but it's more secure in terms of encrypting, but it's popular. But look at this. Telegram, Zeroday used to spread crypto mining malware. The Zeroday is exploitable through the way the app's window client managers a unique that reverses the script, okay? So basically, you can put in the notes here, there's now malware. What's malware? Gabrielle, what's malware?
It's, I think it's.
What's mal? Anybody know Francais? Anybody know French? What's mal in French?
It's devil,
What?
devil.
Yeah, bad. But basically, malware is like a virus that can do damage. So now they have a new damaging software that basically will, without your acceptance and knowledge, will be put into your machine, and it will do crypto mining for its benefit, and you're not even aware of it. You may feel like it's slow. So this is interesting. The Zeroday explorer, through the way that the app's window here, is what they're doing. It is interesting. So Salon is going to be using the reader CPU to mine it with their expression saying, yes, we'll go into it. And then there's some that will exploit some frequencies here. And you can see in this case, a zero-day vulnerability in the popular encrypted messaging app Telegram has subjected affected users to remote crypto mining for months. And then the vulnerability, remember I talk about vulnerabilities in the security chapter? What's a vulnerability? Where the weakness is the chat app's Windows client, right? The weakness deals with what they call a Unicode character. It's basically a character. You can think about it as a computer, basically a code here that reverses the direction of the text in the app. A hacker sends a victim what appears to be a PNG. What's a PNG? A .png? A photo, a picture, and the image attached. As a result of the trickery, they have a certain character embedded in there. That character that looks like nothing to you is actually a JavaScript file that installs malware on your system. You get a picture. Looks nice, huh, Mackenzie? Nothing wrong with it. And all of a sudden you have malware, and that malware then is that vulnerability here is such as these on a victim's computer, and in this case, they're going to be mining on your computer without you knowing it. Detected, okay, this is interesting, that Kaspersky, anybody hear about them? They're an antivirus based in Russia, and all of a sudden now the U.S. government said maybe and the U.S. government buys their software, their antivirus software. So all of a sudden now they wake up and the U.S. government says, oh, maybe there's some kind of malware that they're trying to get, from the NSA or CIA or something there. Who knows? But anyways, detected, which suggests only Russian hackers have exploited this vulnerability. We'll see if that's really true. But you can see here that this is the idea of then that Telegram then is boasting more than 100 million active users here in their company website. So now a number of malwares have hit a number of websites. And those websites then, in Britain it did that too. So now when you go to that website, they'll hook onto your computer and mine it, and they'll try to make money from that. So it's just one after the other. The security, we don't know, but that's what needs to still be the scalable. So I wanted you to make sure that when you think about those blockchain questions here, the private then, these public versus private, the private then will then have consortium where they're only going to have authorized people use the ledger. So you'll be able to use it in fintech, you'll be able to use it in banking, you'll be able to use it in shipping, remove a lot of the inefficiencies, but each node then is going to have a verification. So private blockchains restrict the ability to write to the distributed ledger So it's only gonna be within a certain number of people. And hopefully it's gonna eliminate a lot of the record keeping. And what you were saying then, Phil, it'd be interesting, is auditors will have a different job. What you'll be doing is auditing what they call smart contracts. Just like you remember we talked about NinjaTrader where you had the rules in NinjaTrader, you can embed rules into your contracts. So possibly rules then, who has a degree, right? My passports, my ID, all the rules then, an audit, there'll now be a number of auditors doing smart contracts. Be changing the whole auditing system. So that's, it's exciting in that way. If you can, somebody like yourself, if you can get into that early, there'll be enormous possibilities. I just met somebody last week and they were going to London and they said, companies want to explore it and no one knows about it. So he's going to learn, the blockchain technology and the auditing helping. It's going to be a new, exciting. So you can see here, shipping, fintech, healthcare, blockchains that are available. So you'll see that. And we have the quizzes. You saw the quizzes online, right? And in the Steemit, just so you know, let me go back to just the Steemit itself, right? The CMO cycle, right? And let me just take off this software here. At the cycle.
It looks like you haven't started logging yet.
What?
I typed it in.
Pardon?
Oh, nothing. I typed it in wrong.
Okay, all right. So if I look here, for instance, on the second one, this is what I just started, right? And if I look here, you can see, you can watch my ones. Here's the transcript of what we spoke about, right? And so you can see a number of those that we did. So those are available to you. Questions? So let's talk about now, in terms, we talked about the security, we talked about software that's part of the blockchain, and now I want to talk about the differences between strategies versus indicators. So let me start with NinjaTrader. So if I needed, Vinny, if I needed to describe what a strategy is, what would you say?
I would say a long-term game plan for how you want to trade your stock.
Well, it doesn't need to be a long term, right? Because I could even trade, I could be a day trader, I could be minute by minute or second by second. So it's not necessarily, we were looking at kind of long term because we're looking at in the past for a year, but what's the difference?
I guess would you say strategy is just like what parameters you're going to...
I'm going to be, basically what I'm setting up is a number of functions or indicators with logic to tell me when to, not even to tell me, but the computer then will be able to buy and sell. So, let's start here. So you remember, I don't even know, let me just do something here. Let me just close this so I'll know where I was before. See, Apple looks like it's going back up, doesn't it? We need to change. So what's the first thing I need to do, Vinny? if I'm gonna get into NinjaTrader. I wanna get my data, right? So I wanna get a data feed, so what should I do? The first thing I need to connect, right, to what? What are we gonna connect to? What are we gonna connect to? Kinetic, right? So I'm gonna do, and the reason I could be connecting to any data feed, right? But I'm gonna be using the kinetic, and for me, I'm doing end of day, and now I want to, let me do a new chart, and I don't know, we'll do the Dow 30, and we'll pick BA, right? And I'm gonna click that as new, and I'm gonna say okay. And you remember when I did a strategy and I did simple MA crossover and did new, what do I have to do? I have to enable it to be true. And now I apply, and now I say okay. What did I do wrong? Did I enable it? No. Thank you. Extra credit. Okay. So in here, let me just close. So let's do this strategy, sample, and I thought I did it right, and now I have to apply it. And now I say okay, and now I have it. Okay. I have two lines here, right? What's this line and what's this line? How can you tell? Is if I click on this gold one here, right? Everybody see that? And I right click, what does it say on the bottom? Abdullah. Property. And it will then tell me, everybody can then put a note there, if I click on one of the graphs there, I click on it and I right click, I get to the properties of it, I can see what it is, and it gives me, and notice what it says on the very top. What does it say on the very top? Oh dang, what does this say? Can you read that? Indicators. Indicators, you can put it in your, everybody know Excel? Indicators, like Excel, are built-in functions. So what's a built-in function in Excel? Yes, Mark?
Like a sum function?
Like a sum function, what else? An average function, a regression function, right? They're all built in. What it is basically what, Zach? It's a number of formulas built in, right, that I can run in as one. I don't have to create that function. I don't have to write out that function each time. It's built in. Think about that built-in function is the same thing as an indicator. You can write your own in something like NinjaTrader, or you can use their built-in indicators, just like what? The built-in functions in Excel. Everybody with me? So this one, I can see, what did we have? We had SMA, right? And if I click high down here, right, it tells me I could change the color. Since this is orange, how would I change the color? Simple, right? I could change it to, any other color. I could do a dark color, right? I could do any color that I want. I could make it purple, right? I could make it dark magenta, right? And remake it, or I could just keep it orange, right? So you can see that I don't even have to write the code. You see that? Zach, I don't even have to write the code. It could give me then what I wanted. Remember, we had seen the code before last week. I can do that as well. And this is going to be then, it says then, in here, in terms of the color here, of my plot, solid lines, and what is it? It's going to be my 10-day. My other one, I really have another one, and that's green, right? And if I just close this, if I wanted to go to the green, what would I do? I could right-click, go to Properties, and I could see it. No big shakes. Everybody with me? So these are two indicators that I can use on my own to put in indicators, and then you could see when I did a strategy of my SMA, right? When I had my strategy, how can I then see the code of my strategy? Everybody understand my question? I have to go to my scripts. This is called Ninja scripts. Other ones are called what? Like JavaScript or other types of scripting. This, I have to go. So how do I get to my script?
What was your question?
How do I get to the script
No, before that.
of the strategy? So I go back to my control. I go to what? I go to tools, and I want to edit my strategy. So where do I go? Yuday? I want to edit my strategy. Edit Ninja script, right? Strategy. And we talked about it before. I'm going to go to my sample MA crossover, say OK, and I'll get what? What will I see in this? What is this called? What are all these lines of words called? Is this software or hardware? This is software. What's this called? Code. This is code. This is my source code. This is what they call source code. The advantage of something like NinjaTrader is it has, in the way, source code that the user can see and edit. Now you remember I said if you have a real, Vinny, you remember when I said if you have a really great strategy, what people do is they sell it. A lot of times they lease it. Let's say we all got together and we got a successful strategy. You know what? Let's go ahead and put it out onto the internet and we can lease it. Now, if I paid it, and now we see, can we modify this code? We can. So we could even take a number of strategies that they had. We modify, make it better, take out the shorts, remember, or for this industry, we'll take out the longs, and we could lease it. So my question to you is, what's the problem with that business model? I say, we got a successful one, and maybe even we have it for 6 months, it's successful.
If everybody starts using it, then it's not gonna work.
Or maybe the opposite. We'll be the first, right, and have everybody follow us, and it may even do better, right? That may be. But what else? What's the problem? Can I get to the source code here? So if I have everybody lease it, then what? And the source code is open, then what?
They might change it.
Then they basically take it, and then they could sell it as well, make little modifications. So what you can do with something like that is you can, what they call compile it or lock it down. So you could, what? It's executable. I'll show you if you're really interested in it. When we get a really great idea, we'll do it. You know what I mean? But right now we're just learning. But basically, you run another software program, Vinny, and then it basically doesn't allow you easily to see the code. So so that's what a number of people do, is they're selling their NinjaTrader code. Why do they like the NinjaTrader on that platform? The reason they like it is people can try it out, so you can have them, you know what, nobody's gonna trust. You know, it's like the idea of trust, of blockchain. I don't trust anybody. A lot of charlatans out there, and everybody can say, I'll make $1 million, go buy my stuff for 10,000. And if I can make $1 million, I'll buy it for 10,000. But I'm not so trusting. But I said, let me see if it works. So they say, okay, we'll give it to you for 2 weeks free, or 4 weeks, try it out. I got the source code here, and you remember, what am I getting here? Is what? You remember we read this code last time, right? You remember this, Tommy? Orange, right? With the fast, you remember we saw that green was the plot, and what did we see? Go ahead and add an SMA fast and added SMA slow, and this was my logic. This is a strategy that takes on, if I ask you on a test, are there any indicators, what are the indicators in this source code? What would you say? Vinny?
I'm not sure what you mean by indicators, like.
What are the indicators? I had two, you remember I had two, one was green and one was orange. What were the names of those indicators?
SMA fast and SMA slow.
Yeah. The SMA, and it just was the fast and the slow pertain to what? The number of days. So if I wanted, you're all excited about this, right? How are we spending our Valentine's together, right? Okay, so if I went, I'm going to close this, okay? If I go to tools, and Uday told me that I was supposed to do strategies. If I were looking for indicators, where would I go, Uday?
Indicator.
Look at that. And what should I look for? What did you say, Vinny? What was it called, my indicator?
The slow moving average and fast moving average.
SMA, right here, right? And how would I look at it?
Okay.
What's the name? See, this is copyright. What's the name? What's the name of it? SMA, simple moving average, right? Indicator, and this is basically the code of my indicator. This is the formula. I don't need to know how to write that. I had that built in. Everybody with me? So I got indicators, taking a combination of indicators, given the logic, right, of if then certain things occurring, then I want to enter long, which is a built-in, basically it's a built-in method to enter the long. I don't have to write out all that code. There's something in enter long telling me, or enter short, right, short it. So now what I can do, I'm going to close this. And if I want to change to another company, how can I change to another company? I can just write the symbol here. So if I went MSFT, that's Microsoft. You see, when I type anywhere in the chart, I can change it. And notice, you can see here, dotted green means what? Good or bad? Huh? Dotted green. Good. Basically, I made money. I made money here. It's pretty good here. What about this? Dotted red. What does that mean? I lost money. And why did I lose money? If I go and look here, it tells me at this point, right, when it crossed over, let me get my little crosshair. Everybody see that? I'm getting my little crosshair. I just went to that pointer. I'm getting my little crosshair. It told me, right at this point, this was the cross, right? When this crossed below, or when this crossed above, then it told me to do what? Sell short. And when did I get out? Right here. What could I have done? Basically, if you were going to evaluate from the past, Vinny, notice it was going in the right direction. It was going down, but what happened? I waited too long, and I got out too late. Everybody see that? I should have, basically, in hindsight, this would have been better. You see that, Nico? So what you can do is start modifying it with adding additional indicators onto it. So I'll show you how to do that. This is Microsoft, doesn't matter whose it is. Now, this was strategies. To the left of strategies, what does it say, Uday? Indicators. You see that? So what am I going to do? I'm going to pick indicators. And there's a couple of indicators. So I have indicators here, right? My SMA and my SMA fast. Here it was, I just changed my symbol. Now what I want to do is I want to do something called a regression channel. Anybody know what regression is? Anybody hear about it? Great. Don't I love it? Because if you heard about it, then it's nothing new, right? So I want to go to something called a regression channel. You can put that in your notes. And what should I do in order to get it into this box here? What should I press? New. And then I have this, and I'm going to say OK or apply. So a lot of times, this is called a regression channel. A channel means what? Up and above. And this may be something that some people use when this is called support and resistance. Basically, this is supporting my lines. Whenever it goes above this blue, it basically says when it goes above this blue, guess what? It usually comes down. When it goes below this blue, what usually happens, it'll come back up. So those may be points that I can add to my methodology. You see that, Vincent?
Yeah, doing the regression thing now.
Regression channel. See how you get it?
Actually, no, can you run back for me? Sorry.
Sure. Who can help them? So if I do this, what do? I just go to my strategies. Instead of my strategies, right to the left of that, what do? You see that? Indicators, and I just look, it's in alphabetical order. I just look for regression channel. And what do I always do? Press new. Another one that's interesting among the regression is what we call R squared. R squared is a way you can think about it. It almost tells me how well my model fits. And R squared, you can put it in your notes, goes from 0 to 1. So I'm going to pick R squared, click new, then what should I do? Apply and OK. And you know what? I'm going to do it twice. I'm going to do the indicator again. I have my, what am I looking for? R squared. And I'll tell you why in my madness why I'm doing this. And I'm going to say OK or apply. See, I have two of them. So what I'm going to do, you see how I hook on one? I'm just going to bring it up. Wow, doesn't it look crazy? Now, what did I say R squared was? What are the values of R squared? 0 to 1. 1 is the peak, 0 is no. So in order to improve my models, in order to improve my strategies, what people do is add additional indicators and see that my additional indicators give me more insight. And sometimes what they do is they have their machines do it as well for you. So at this point, I want to look at the areas. Remember that area where a lot of the area was good, but let me go back to that area where it screwed up. Where was that area where it was this one, right? So maybe, and these are just types here, you see this? When it's very high, it basically was at this point, it could be when it got to this point and it was going down, what was this doing? It was going up. So possibly you could look at some of this and notice here how it's going to buy right here and it bought here and now it's starting to go down. It may be that we can add a different one. As the R square is going down, maybe we should change our model. Or as the R square is going up, it may be that we need to change our model. And that's how you add then your indicators. Yes, Vincent?
You said it goes from 0 to 1, but what's it actually measure again?
It measures, basically, it measures the predictability. It measures basically the errors that are involved in my forecast.
So if it was all the way at 0, there would be no errors.
Well, no, there wouldn't be any relationship. The closer is to 100% is better. The 0 meaning, think about it like in correlation, that it's weak. But depending on what I'm doing, remember I'm trying to sell short, and remember each of these stocks operate in different conditions, and it may not work all the time. But this is another way in which you can see, look how far it goes down and then goes up. It gets to be more noisy, the data. This is kind of like more predictable, you know, and it may be, what is the stock doing in comparison to the R square? You know, sometimes you can look at it. You also have, you know what's interesting? You also have something, look at these indicators too, just so you'll know. So you have so many others. You have constants, you have a number of these indicators, buy, sell volume. You have a number of these indicators here. You have regression lines, you have the slope of the lines, you have a number of ones. All of these are built-in functions also into Excel. So next week I'll show you how to do some of this. How many people know Excel, right? I'll show you how to do the same kind of things in Excel. Showing you in the same thing, the built-in functions that you can write it. You can see here standard deviations, a lot of statistical terms that you know, volumes as well, with correlations. Later on, some people now are looking at it in the different cryptocurrencies. Everybody says, you know, Bitcoin's so expensive, I want to trade in a different, who's traded in any coins, anybody here? Some people are saying, let me see different currencies and let me see the correlation between it. Maybe one predicts the other, or one is going in the opposite direction. So one is maybe like the laggard and one is going forward. So as they're going forward, maybe another one I can then say, hey, this other altcoin or something like that will go in the direction or go in the opposite direction. Or one will go first and then the other will go. So you can almost do, people are doing investigative on that. And let me just show you one more as we go through this. And that is let's go back to our web links. Your last web link in your FAR is called Ninja Trader Strategies. Let me open it up in a new window. This is within Ninja Trader. I gave you that link, and what you can do, those of you that are interested, I'll just accept this, and I'll say go. And what this is these are additional strategies that other people have put up on the Ninja Trader site that you can import into Ninja Trader and try it out. All of these here are free, and you can see some of these, probably if they were free, they were put in this called Stocks and Commodities magazine. This is one, if you are going to download any of these, download those that come from Stocks and Commodities magazine. And I'll tell you why. Because they evaluate the strategy, and it's like a trusted source. So if you go there, you can see that a lot of people have done a number of different strategies that they've added to it. So you can see here auto trend, basic percentage. Here's another one for bonds and SMA, combining then moving strategy with something else. Some of them tell you to buy, some of them with not. Here, days of the week. Some people are saying, hey, the day of the week that you trade is going to be important. Divergent strategies that are available here as discussed. And basically they tell you how to download. Download to your desktop from the Control Center window, select File, Utilities, and import the selected one. So you can do the same one here. Just accept and go, and you can see that you have a number of these from stocks and commodities where they add additions, other people have written it. So here's another one, Elder Trading System, and then here is Gandalf, Gap Reversals, Golden, Halcott's. I've used this before. So how do you do it? All you do is click on this. You verify it. You see it right there. You verify it. You can show it in your folder. You see it's in my folder here of my downloads. And then what do I need to do? I go, what did they say I need to do? I have to go to File, Utilities, import my Ninja script. Please ensure I say yes. That's why I'd like to do stocks and commodities. And then what I can do is I can go to my downloads. And then I would just pick, for instance, I'd open it and I'll say yes in this case. And has successfully imported. So what should I see? I should go then to File, New Chart, and then what do I want to pick? I can pick any stock. I'll do BA, right? New. I'll say OK. And now if I go to Strategy, what should I see? What do I see then? I see my imported strategy. So that's how you can, if you want, you can import other strategies from other people. Questions?
So if you have one strategy that's like the month, like the day of the month, and then another one that's like time of day, or like you have multiple ones, like are they gonna interfere with each other? So like the coding won't match up and you can only use one at a time? Or
It depends.
Okay.
Sometimes you can use them from different stocks. You know, you always want to start simple. Right? You always want to start in a simple fashion that you want to do. Okay. So you always want to start off simple. But I just wanted to show you that you can do that same one with your automated trading systems. So I'm going to say no to all, and then I'll close that and I'll show you on Excel the next time. All right, so let's go back here. Just want to make sure that everyone is familiar. So if I go to course documents, I go just make sure that everybody understands it, and let me just do TG software. We'll just review what we need to on the end. So we went through the source code. We can see the users, and then so the difference between indicators. So Mackenzie, how would you say the difference between indicators versus strategies? What is similar to a built-in function?
Would be like an indicator.
Right. And what has the logic in it?
Strategy.
That uses a number of indicators that also the computer can buy or sell on its own. Now you can make it that it doesn't buy, it'll just alert you, but an indicator on its own can't buy and sell.
Only the strategies.
Only the strategies. Okay. So let me just enable here and just make sure that software issues then, and there's something called system software and application software. What's the difference and who cares? So system software a lot of times deals with what we call operating systems. What operating systems do you know, Mark?
Operating system,
Mhm.
Windows,
Windows is one. What else?
Linux,
Linux is another one. So I got Linux, I got Windows, what else?
iOS,
iOS, what else? Android, right, is another operating system. So what's the definition of an operating system? So what's the difference between an operating system? So give me an example of an operating system versus an application software. So the basis of any device is what? An operating system, right? An operating system basically allows all the parts to be able to run as one, right? That when I load up a application software program, basically it takes it from my, what I call my random access memory and puts it takes it from my hard drive and puts it into my random access memory, right? Or I can save it, or I can upload it to the cloud, or I can print out something. So I have my operating system software, and the higher to that are all my apps. You know apps, right? You download apps as well. I can download applications on my laptops, or I can download apps on my phone. Those are the applications. And what are my software issues? Is the software issues, what it turns out to be is that I can have bugs in my software can be vulnerable, right, in terms of security. And we've already looked at, when they talk about computer programs or programming, we've had basically looking under the hood when we looked at the source code. And we can see that it's basically the rules and the tasks that are basically allowing the system to work together. Some programming languages then are used for different operating systems versus the web versus my mobile devices versus their programming scripting languages for specialties like automated trading systems. And we've already talked about documentation, right? The whole idea that you've been doing the documentations and the application software. So those are the areas in which you need to look at where I have that application running further. So these are the applications, and you can see here more and more now it's speech recognition. Now basically all those IoT devices are all software driven, right, that we're able to do. So I wanted you to have that sense, and then you can see, let me go back to, let me see here. You can see here now what I have done is I put additional questions in, I'm starting to put additional questions on Steemit. So after the transcripts and so forth, for you to have extra practice, I put additional questions there, so you can practice more. So for instance, when we talked about security, then having one backup of your business data is sufficient for security purposes. What do you think then? Dan, true or false? And why?
False.
And why?
Because if you lose that backup, then you have another data.
Right. So one of those things is you can go through, right? So having the backup, we want to have the backup, right? You want to have it not only on your computer, but possibly on the cloud, possibly even on some other device. Remember, in terms of the hurricane, you have issues here, right? And then it's just going through. The security of each computer on the internet is independent, right, of the security of all the other computers of the internet. So even for the exam, you can use these for additional questions. So I'll put in more questions there that you can review, besides what I have on the quiz. Okay, and the next one, so what I want to do for next week is I want you to do chapter 5, which is database management systems, for the quiz. And let me go to the assignments, make sure that that's available. So one is to do the quiz for chapter 5. The second one is in the automated trading systems for next week. So let me write it down. So for next week, quiz chapter 5. The following, what I'd like to do is go back to your NinjaTrader, and on your spreadsheets, update your stocks. What does that mean? You have how your strategy did last week. Now do it again and see if what are the profits per month. Because a one time isn't good enough. It has to be on a continual basis. And there needs to be possibly modifications to the strategy. And what you would want to do is you would want that also automated all the time for you. And then find what needs to possibly be modified, or that the sector needs to be changed, or this strategy doesn't work anymore. A lot of times you'll find in the strategies, they'll be listed free. How much did it cost you to download those other strategies? They're free. Sometimes the reason they're free is because the strategy wasn't making money for these people anymore. If it was still making money, what would they do? They'd lease it out, or they keep it for themselves. Like somebody was saying, maybe they wouldn't use it. They'd be doing the same. So I want you to update this, and then I want you to be familiar with the indicators. So add what did we call it? The what? The R squared? And add the regression channel and view it and see when you get those dotted reds, do these indicators, especially this regression chant, the R squared, does it help you? Isn't that pretty? It's for Valentine's. Doesn't it help you? And try to write possibly in just writing the logic. You don't have to write it in the code, but even just in English, is there something when you're looking at, just like I did it, would it help having that R squared? Does it help you reduce your errors? That's what we're trying to do, is less losing. And then next week, I'll show you how to automate a lot of this. I've asked somebody to come in. We'll see if they show up. But I asked somebody, he's a Russian, and when you talk about crypto, you know what I mean? It's good in Russia, right? He has a whole group in Kiev that's now doing a platform, like a blockchain platform, that he's going to be writing on, that end users just write the logic and don't even know the program. Quite interesting. He's based in Miami, but he has his team in Kiev, and then they have like marketing people here in Miami. And one of the founders, have you ever heard, Tommy, of CareCloud? It's a large electronic healthcare company. He raised, I think, over $20 million or something dollars. He was the founder of that company, and he's now backing this guy. So he was all excited. I told him he told me he would come. We'll see, you know what I mean? But we'll have some guests as well, kind of, to show what's up and coming. I think it makes it more interesting, you think? So it's kind of seeing what people are doing. So he's, and I may invite another couple to, with him, that are doing the areas of kind of the blockchain and the development work, because it's like really quite hot now. And possibly part of it is hype, you know, and it's just like the .com, you know, part of it's hype, but I think there is essence in the technology, you know, of what's happening. And I really think that through those efficiencies, it will work. It's kind of like an interesting market, but it'll take some time. But you can see that people are going through that. But I want us to have that technology, and then we've delayed then our test, so I can spend the week before March 7th, I can spend time with you of reviewing what it is, and then you can kind of ask me questions, and then kind of review what's happening here, and then we'll go over the open-ended questions. But I think like the open-ended questions, get an idea, even that one article where you see those questions, the difference between blockchain, private versus public, and the areas of this automated trading system, to get an idea of what the source code as well. And so I'm going to end earlier today, because I'm going to meet then on Mark. We're going to do it with Mackenzie and Abdullah here. And then do you have another person in your group, or no? Or you don't know? Okay, all right. So, Mark, you want to sit then next to?
I didn't do anything, I just created
It
another.
wouldn't let me edit your website, so I sent you an email asking to share the edit with my Gmail, so I can see, let me do it through that.
So I saw you were,
I just started from scratch.
oh, that was something new, so do you want me to still allow you?
I mean, you can, it's up to you.
Okay, I'll do it.
So what's the issue here?
First, I create the website, but I send it to the wrong email. I send it to the lady instead of,
He didn't resin Jesse, okay,
Yeah.
I heard that. Okay.
and then I deleted it. I
So
resent
folks,
it.
other folks that have any questions, stay with me. I have these, what?
And then I recreated it, but apparently, and I give him permission, but apparently he doesn't have a permission.
So work with him now and get it done. You know what I mean?
No, it's not, I handled it.
Did you get his permission?
It's just through he sent it to my email, and they don't pay for us to have the G Suite.
Oh
so
yeah,
I
you do
just-
have a Gmail with you.
It's not Gmail though. It's through my Miami.
It's probably Outlook. It's Office 365.
Let me give you permission again.
How's that been?
It's been good, man. It's been.
You have my email.
Yeah, I sent you an email.
So you sent me
with the email that I want you to
to
send.
the
Whichever one you
Gmail.
send it, whichever one you send
my
it to.
email.
Okay.
I'll send it tonight.
Yeah, I don't see
And then we have to mix it sort of arrangements because I feel like we can. I mean, I saw the website you created, but and then we can use the sign of because we're not yet associated with them. You know what I mean? We tried to do that last semester, and she said no.
All right. Yeah, that's fine.
So
I
what's
mean,
the
it
issue?
doesn't matter.
I have to he sent me an email. I have to go home and give re-permission him to his